The Acer Predator Helios 300 is widely regarded as a great budget laptop for gamers, as it comes in at a great price with fairly powerful hardware, capable of playing modern games with high settings at 1080p 60fps. So let's put it to the test and find out just how well it performs. I've had a lot of requests to review this laptop and it's finally here, so let's start by checking out the hardware specs. It's got an Intel 7700HQ quad-core CPU running at 2.8GHz, which can turbo up to 3.8GHz. There's a single 16GB stick of DDR4 memory running at 2400MHz, although the two slots can support up to 32GB. For storage, there's a 128GB M.2 SATA 3 SSD and a 1TB 5400 RPM hard drive installed. For the graphics, we've got Nvidia's 1060 with 6GB of memory in combination with a 15.6-inch 1080p 60Hz IPS panel, and we'll see how this performs later in the benchmarks. For the network connectivity, there's a Gigabit Ethernet port and 802.11 AC Wi-Fi, as well as Bluetooth 4.1. The lid and interior are a brushed black aluminium, and the lid features the Silver Predator logo. Overall, I think it looks fairly nice, but it does attract fingerprints easily. There's red accents all around the laptop, giving you that classic gaming laptop look. The physical dimensions of the laptop are 39cm in width, 26.6cm in depth, and 2.6cm in height, so it's not too thick. The total weight is listed at approximately 2.7 kilos, and I found mine to weigh just under 2.6 kilos, and this increases to just under 3.3 kilos when you include the power brick and cable for charging, so still fairly portable. As mentioned, the screen is a 15.6-inch 60Hz 1080p IPS matte panel. No G-Sync here unfortunately. The viewing angles are really good, the colours are still clear even on sharp angles. I've also measured the colours produced by the screen using the Spider 5 Pro, and my results return 63% of sRGB, 45% of NTSC, and 47% of Adobe RGB. So compared to other laptops I've tested, it's on the lower side. However, with that said, I think it's perfectly acceptable for a gaming laptop, as it helps reduce the overall cost, and I didn't have any issues with it while playing games, but I probably wouldn't want to use it for content creation. I've also performed my usual backlight bleed test, which involves having the screen completely black in a dark room to help emphasize any bleeding around the edges. I then take a long exposure photo to display any bleed, so this is a worst case scenario test. Although the image shows a little difference in the top right corner, I couldn't see anything with my own eyes. To me it was flawless in this regard, although this may of course vary between laptops. While moving the display there was just a little bit of flex. It was fairly sturdy thanks to the corner hinges, and you can just open the laptop with one finger, demonstrating a fairly even weight distribution, perhaps with slightly more in the back. Above the display is a HD camera capable of 720p video.
The camera looks pretty blurry, even with some decent lighting, although the microphone sounds pretty good, but you'll be able to judge both for yourself.
I liked typing with the keyboard, no problems at all there. The keys were a little clicky sounding, with red backlighting and clearly marked WASD keys. The lighting can be turned on or off via the keyboard, but red is the only colour available, matching the overall red and black theme of the laptop. There was only a little bit of keyboard flex while pushing down fairly hard. It wasn't an issue while typing normally. The touchpad has a smooth surface, and for the most part it was alright, although I felt like I had to push down a little harder than I'm used to click. I'd probably stick to a mouse where possible. Moving on to the I/O, on the left there's a Kensington lock, Ethernet port, USB 3.1 Gen 1 Type-C port, no Thunderbolt support though, HDMI port, USB 3.0 Type-A port, and SD card reader. Over on the right there's a 3.5mm audio combo jack, two USB 2.0 Type-A ports, and power input. There's nothing at all on the front, and on the back there's just some air exhaust vents with more red accenting. Underneath there's some air intakes as well as the speakers. There's some rubber feet which help prevent the laptop from moving around on flat surfaces when in use, and also rise it up slightly to help let cool air in. There are also two panels which can easily be removed with a single screw to reveal the 2.5-inch hard drive bay and two RAM slots, allowing for quick and easy upgradability. The speakers are on the left and right sides, and I found them to sound alright. There wasn't really any bass, and they sound a little tinny at higher volumes, but not too bad. Powering the laptop is a 48Wh 4-cell battery, and with a full charge and just watching YouTube videos with the screen on half brightness, keyboard lighting off, and background apps disabled, I was able to use it for 3 hours and 58 minutes. While playing The Witcher 3 with medium settings and Nvidia's battery boost set to 30fps, the battery lasted for 1 hour and 12 minutes, although it seemed to only run at 20fps. Overall, I thought the battery life was pretty good. I was surprised, as on paper it's not actually that big. However, it does seem that it may be limited in the amount it can discharge, which could explain why games were running slow on battery, allowing it to last longer. When not gaming, it swaps over to the Intel integrated graphics, saving even more power. During normal use with an ambient room temperature of 24 degrees Celsius, the CPU and GPU both idled at around 40 degrees. Here are the external temperatures of the laptop where you'll actually be putting your hands, getting to around 36 degrees in the center. With the CPU and GPU maxed out for half an hour with the automatic fan profile, using the Heaven benchmark and AIDA64 stress test at the same time with the same room temperature, the CPU reached its hottest at 86 degrees, and no thermal throttling was observed even with the GPU load. The keyboard area got a fair bit warmer, again in the center, up to around 49 degrees towards the back. The included Predator Sense software allows us to manually max out the fans, and in doing so with Heaven and AIDA64 still running, the temperatures drop by just 1 degree, and this seems to be reflected on the keyboard area, which is about the same as before. The gaming result was from playing PUBG at high settings with the automatic fan profile, and we can see that the GPU was slightly warmer when playing a real game compared to running a benchmark tool, and the temperatures of the keyboard area reflect this, getting up to 52 degrees. This wasn't too noticeable though, as the wrist rest areas stayed fairly cool in comparison. As for the fan noise produced by the laptop, I'll let you have a listen to each of these tests. At full load and while gaming, it was sitting at around 54 decibels, which is around the same as many other gaming laptops that I've tested. If we max out the fans though, which only gives a small thermal improvement, this rises quite a bit more to 59 decibels and is quite loud. Overall, the temperatures were quite good. It didn't get too hot under full load and there was no throttling, so it seems to have a fairly decent cooling solution. Finally, let's take a look at some gaming benchmarks. All tests were run at the 1080p resolution with all Windows and Nvidia updates to date installed. Overwatch ran well here, averaging over 100 FPS with 1% lows above what the 60Hz display can output. CSGO also runs great. Even on max settings, we're getting frame rates well above what the display is capable of producing, while the 1% lows at minimum settings are almost 60 FPS. PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds was tested with the latest 1.0 version using the replay feature, and it felt nice and smooth at high or lower settings, where we still had fairly decent 1% lows. However, this will depend greatly on what's actually going on in-game. Battlefield 1 also played great regardless of the setting level used. Even the 1% lows at any setting level are fairly high considering the 60Hz display. Shadow of War was tested with the built-in benchmark and it's going alright. I'd argue that you don't really need a high frame rate to enjoy this game. It played great on high or lower settings. The Witcher 3 is another game that I'd say runs well without a high frame rate, and I personally thought that it was nice and smooth at high settings or lower. Watch Dogs 2 is a fairly resource-intensive game, and another that I think doesn't really need a high frame rate to enjoy. However, even at ultra settings, it still felt about the same as the others, as the 1% lows didn't change that much. Rise of the Tomb Raider was tested with the built-in benchmark tool, and even at max settings were able to average above 60 FPS. Ghost Recon was also tested with the built-in benchmark, and is another fairly resource-intensive game, not something I'd want to play at max settings. However, it seemed to work fairly well at very high or lower. Dota 2 isn't too demanding, but I'm testing with a fairly intensive replay, and we're only just under 60 FPS at max settings. Doom was tested with Vulkan, and even at max settings the averages are more than enough. The game played smoothly regardless of setting level. In the past, I've said the 1060 is a great option for 1080p 60 FPS gaming at high settings, and as we've seen here in many of the games, this remains true. Combined with the 60Hz screen, this is a good combination. If you want to take advantage of the higher frame rates in esports titles like Overwatch or CSGO, you'll need to use an external monitor with a higher refresh rate, keeping in mind you're limited to using HDMI. Now onto the benchmarking tools. We'll start with the Unigine benchmarks, and here's how the laptop performed in Heaven benchmark with the tessellation set to extreme and anti-aliasing on 8. Here's how Valley benchmark performed with anti-aliasing on 8 at the various graphic settings. And finally, these are the results from their newest Superposition benchmark. For the final graphics benchmarks, I ran Firestrike and TimeSpy from 3DMark, as well as VRMark, and got some decent scores with the 1060. In Crystal DiskMark, the 128GB SATA-based SSD got around 450 MB per second in both sequential reads and writes, while the 1TB 5400 RPM hard drive sat in the 90s for both read and write. I've also tested the SD card reader, and we got around 70 MB per second for both. As for the price, the Acer Predator Helios 300 comes in at 1,899 Australian dollars here in Australia with a 256GB SSD, or about 1,399 US dollars for my international viewers. However, the cheapest option available without the extra hard drive starts at 1,050 US dollars, which is what makes this such a competitive option for the price. So what did you guys think of the Predator Helios 300 gaming laptop from Acer? I can see why I've had so many requests to review this laptop over the last few months. It's offering a lot of value at a great price. It does appear to sacrifice on some things such as screen quality, and the overall build quality wasn't quite as nice as some other laptops I've tested. However, it makes up for this where it counts, with decent battery life and excellent hardware that will allow you to play basically any modern game at 1080p 60fps with high settings. Let me know what you guys thought down in the comments, and leave a like if you found the review useful. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for future tech videos like this one.